for the one and only Rosario Dawson.
I was trying to take a selfie backstage. Sorry, missed it. Hey, everyone, you're taking a selfie with me? We're like Lily, I feel like Lily Tomlin a little bit. We're like the kids in the little chair. Like, I love you too! It's opposite. So, this is the way. This is the way. Hi! Very cool.
So how are you doing today?
I am very well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I mean, any day at Comic-Con is an exciting day, right?
Very much so. Very much so. How y'all feeling? I was gonna say besides cold. Unless you've got a dope costume on and you're warm.
I see some Ahsokas out there. So we're here at Comic-Con. We have a lot of your fans out here. When you walk around in the world, what do you get recognized for the most?
It kind of depends on where I am, but I definitely here I would have to say probably Ahsoka, Becky, Abernathy, Gail. Sometimes people say some inappropriate things, you know, it's like you know, there's kids here, so you gotta be careful with some of those Clerks quotes, but yeah, it's been really cool. Mimi for forever. I love my Mimis. I think one of my favorite things about that is when I meet other people who played in, you know, different performances of it, because the community of Rent is really special.
Rent heads, right?
Me a Rent head.
So I see all these Ahsokas out there. I see a lot of Star Wars cosplay. Amazing, by the way.
Not easy.
Not easy. I mean, you would know. Your road to Star Wars, your road to Ahsoka started from a piece of fan art.
Yes,
logic. When you first saw that piece of fan art, what did you feel?
I felt powerful. It was such an incredible image and so strong, and it was so beautiful to see her at that stage of her life. That's what I think got me so excited, was the possibility of that story continuing. And I think that's what got me so moved when we first got dressed in what her new costume was going to be that Shauna had created, because it wasn't cosplay, it was a new adventure. And that just was really exciting, because hashtag Ahsoka lives. Hey.
And when you first put on the new costume, what did you feel like then?
Like I might lose the job because I was doing like jumping jacks. And I could see there was a moment where like John and, you know, Dave were looking at me like, did we make the wrong choice? Is she too excited? Like, you know what I mean? So I had to try to keep it in. But I think it wasn't until I really also put the contacts in that it felt like I was definitely her, which felt really cool. Because you could see the difference, people like looking at me and being really excited, and they were kind of more taking in the costume and the whole look, but when the eyes were in, they were all like, it just gives a gravitas.
That's really incredible. What was your favorite part of the entire Star Wars experience for you?
Being in it. I remember I met our Princess Leia, our Carrie Fisher, at a con in Chicago, and seeing how the fans were with her, and and I'd done some readings and things with Mark Hamill, and I get excited obviously when he does the Joker giggle and everything, but for real, it's just to be able to use the Force and be in this space where I can say, may the Force be with you legitimately, officially. Like, I remember watching the Mandalorian episode of my mom, and I say it at the end, and my mom literally just like did the slow head turn from the screen to my face, and just like tears in her eyes. Like, she was a teenage mom. She like did that. She like made it happen. I was now officially, telling her that the Force was strong with her. And I literally just took a picture of my grandson next to an R2-D2 and a C-3PO with this whole sticker like thing that was on this whole mural wall that said the Force is strong with this one. And I was like, it's coming full circle, guys. It's beautiful.
That is so beautiful. So, I mean, you just mentioned voice acting, right? So when you're preparing for a voice role, how do you prepare? And is it like wildly different from preparing for live action?
Yeah, I don't have to put any makeup on. I don't have to get up as early. That's awesome. And I get to usually like play video games and things like that. It's really get into it. No, I really love it because you get to kind of keep playing with it and experimenting with it and coming back to it. Like working on Lego Batman, we've shot. That was done over a couple of years. So it keeps getting tweaked and you get to see the animation kind of develop, which was really cool. I just did a voice on the new Terminator, which is awesome, and you should totally check out if you haven't yet. And that felt so special to be a part of a franchise that I remember watching with my parents over, like dinner and like kind of contemplating like logistically, would it really make sense to be able to go back in time and how you would do it differently and all of these different things, and now to be a part of it and these different ways. I have been a part of these different Marvel shows in live action, but to do the voice of Wonder Woman, to do the voice of Lego Batgirl, to do the voice of, I did in a podcast, I did the voice of Catwoman. Like, I get to do these really iconic characters in the DC space with my voice. And being that Tim Curry is my favorite actor forever, for all time. And his career and people like him and, our wonderful James Earl Jones, who just passed. Voice acting was just always something I was always very compelled by. I mean, I'm looking at your Snoopy shirt right now, and it's like just like animation, cartoons, the funnies. My uncle was a comic book artist. Like, I just have always loved storytelling in all the different ways, and I'm just so grateful that I get to do it on screen and behind the screen, for sure.
That's really amazing. You mentioned, yes, great answer. You mentioned playing superheroes, and you mentioned being on the Netflix shows. Everybody loved you and yes, everybody loved you as Claire in Daredevil. Do you prefer to be the superhero or to be the woman on the street?
It sounds a little like off whether you put that.
I didn't mean it that way.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think I think one of my favorite things about playing Claire was how many nurses and people in the health field contacted me. There's a guy, Josh Cruz, who I became friends with, who's a great collector. He's a nurse. He's a night nurse specifically. And, I met him actually through a contest that we had so he could come to the Top 5 premiere, and we stayed close. And he constantly is always sending me different stuff from the characters that I've played and things. But I just remember how much it meant to him to have that sort of character so uplifted and in so many of the different shows, and showing how heroic and necessary her contribution was, not only to keeping these other heroes safe, but just in general, her life mission to take care of people. And I think that's what I loved so much about the street level characters and all of those shows, as fantastical and fun as it can get with these characters who are the aliens and super superior in all these different gifted ways. It's really wonderful and remarkable to imagine someone just taking it upon themselves to help someone else who is also just as vulnerable as that other person, who's just used discipline and pushed themselves to a measure of excellence because of just a righteous feeling for justice. And I think that we have lots of those heroes every day. They run into burning buildings, they go and protect people, they rescue and they do emergency surgeries on them. I think it's just really beautiful that we get to, sometimes with these stories that are very fantastical, also highlight that we live among heroes and we all have that opportunity to show up for each other in a powerful way.
It's really incredible. One more
Go team!
Go team. One more question before we turn it over to fan questions, so start thinking of your questions. Josie and the Pussycats has had this huge resurgence. What has it been like to have a new generation rediscover that film?
I mean, du jour means family, right? So I just love, I have songs from that movie going through my head all the time. I was saying I had gotten a flat tire that I was changing by myself. I tried to help and I was like, no, I got this. And I was like, spin around, as I was like taking off the lock nuts. It's just, I get really, that I think it was such a special time doing that film because it was still when we had privacy. We didn't all have a lot of cell phones or any of that stuff. We were on location filming in Vancouver. And we just had such an amazing time, and it's with so many incredible people that I'm still very close with. And I love people really getting it because I think it was ahead of its time, and it's still, when you watch it, it's a really good film, and the music is really awesome. And I think they did, Deb and Harry did such a brilliant job, making that film be something that could be really timeless. And that's great because those characters, that's why we keep revisiting them, is because there is a timelessness to them. And I'm glad that the movie still holds, because there are some films from that genre, that era, that don't stand up to such scrutiny. And I just watched it again recently and I'm like, this movie slaps. Like, it's really good and it has a lot of really good messages in it. And I think it's really beautiful. So I'm really glad. I'm not surprised it's connecting with people, because I think it had some really important things to say about our capitalism and propaganda and messaging. And in an era right now with AI proliferating and misinformation and disinformation, deep fakes and all that kind of stuff, there's still a really vital message to that film that I'm glad resonates with people and that they're still getting.
That's amazing. All right, so let's see if we have any fan questions. Yes. Hi.
So my name is Steven. This is a full circle moment for you. I saw you in my hometown, San Jose, California, 10 years ago when you were accepting the Senate West Maverick Award. What does it mean for you to be an innovator?
Oh, wow, thank you. I don't know, it's such a funny thing. Like, you know, when I put labels on myself, it's usually like ADHD and chronically late and deep sleeper and muncher, you know what I mean? But I love that innovating. You know, my family is really tenacious. You know, I grew up in an abandoned building. I watched my mom have to learn how to do plumbing and electrical. My dad did construction, you know, and they were all also artists and, like, you know, just so multifaceted as people. And I love that people, I love the creativity of human beings, and innovating is just that thing. Like, I just think that we have so much inspiration in us if we allow ourselves. And I think what I get sad is that I feel like we don't have as much time to do that, because we're always so stimulated with cell phones and media and things all the time. We don't have that quiet time. I used to remember how much I loved, you know, my summers and how bored you could feel, but like how much that triggered and inspired us to create and, you know, and do things. And so I'm glad that I still have that innately in me, but I know that's where I came from, and I hope to, in whatever things I innovate or do, that inspires other people to figure out what's their secret sauce, what's their magic that they can bring.
Thank you so much for your question. How about this Ahsoka up here?
Thank you so much for all the passion and care you put into your projects. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked the Ahsoka panel from last Comic-Con. Whether it's the animated Rebels or Clone Wars or live action, what scene or event captures the essence of Ahsoka Tano, your character?
It's a big question.
That's big, yeah. You know what I really love, actually, and not in that, and I think in the new stories that they sort of put out, and seeing just how hardcore Anakin was with Ahsoka and her training, to the point of her actually literally being knocked unconscious and then like waiting for her to stir so he could sick some more like violence on her to combat. And I think of that dynamic of their relationship and all the different moments that it peaks up and the highs and the lows, and just sort of that idea of leadership and showing up and pushing yourself beyond your own personal limits. Because what you see from like the flashbacks of now seeing her as a little baby and seeing her with her parents and how force sensitive she was since she was a child, it's like, I think we can get really little lazy when we have an innate talent towards something and we don't push ourselves. And I think that's what I really admire about her, and I really admire about the tenacity of so many of the characters within the Star Wars universe, is it's never a one-time decision. It's in every single day, every single confrontation, every single challenge, you know, that provokes in them how they show up. And so it's a daily moment-to-moment choice. And so that's what I think. It shows up everywhere in it, but I particularly love it in her relationship with him and how they never just are satisfied with how good they were before. It's always pushing themselves to a level of excellence, because you just never know, as a proper real samurai or whatever, right? Like, that next battle could be your last. And if you're fighting the fight for a good reason, you want to make sure you're giving it your all.
Thank you so much for your question. young person right here?
I kind of have to, because she's so like, she's like the Statue of Liberty back there, so we gotta figure it out. Yeah.
As a young theater kid, what is some advice that you could give us?
A young theater kid? Oh my goodness. Protect your voice. That's really key. But I just take it all in. Like, I would watch as much stuff as possible. You know, when people want to write, the most important thing for them to do is read. You know, and I think going and seeing as many shows as possible, and not just being satisfied with seeing it the one time, but watching it at the lunch. What am I saying? Lunch one, the midday one, matinee. Watching the matinee one, watching the night one, like watching it multiple times, seeing how it shifts, how it changes, how you never get super married to one way of doing the performance, but that it shifts and changes, even with the weather and the energy and the crowd, and like you find other moments of humor, and I just think it's really fun. I think putting yourself out there as much as possible, getting past that point where like you mess up, you miss a cue, you miss a line, you miss whatever, and you see how it doesn't break you. It actually makes the rest of the performance actually quite exhilarating, because you're like, I fell on my face and only the people on this side of the stage noticed. And so I'm gonna keep going, and it's fun. So I think that would be the thing I would say, is just keep absorbing it, taking it in and practicing and watching and celebrating it, because it's one of the funnest, most great communities you could be a part of. I love it. So congratulations, that was awesome. I hope I get to see you someday on the stage.
Thank you so much for your question. Were we able to, the Ahsoka in the back?
Yeah, go for it.
Which is more comfortable for the Ahsoka series, the gray or the white?
I have to say the gray.
I agree, I do both. You're amazing, I love you.
It was a test and I passed.
I think we have time for one more question.
Sorry, I'm long-winded.
Sorry. Were we able to?
Okay, throw out a question since you're right.
Yes.
Puerto Rican, yes!
So growing up, we didn't have a lot of like people that looked like us on screen, but like seeing you, seeing you as Mimi and seeing you as Ahsoka, it's so important to have that. Who was someone for you growing up? Did you have anybody that you like really looked up to that like, that looks like me? I want to, you know.
I mean, I love me some Rita Romero, Rita, because I think Moreno, because I think, she was in a movie where there was a lot of Latin characters who weren't played by Latin people, you know? And I think there's a really cool series that John Leguizamo just put together, really talking about the contributions of Latinos in our history and our culture. And I get really like moved by that, you know, like I'm a big Trekkie, and we would not have Star Trek if it wasn't for Desilu Productions, because the first pilot was rejected, and they brought it, and Lucille Ball said, yeah, let's reshoot it again in our studios. And I remember I was sitting in my godson's class, because I'm that annoying person, and I sat in on 4 of his classes, audited his classes in college, and was like answering questions and like asking questions. And I'll never forget, he was in his media class, and they were just going through history of television and media. And like, it was a whole chunk of history was like one slide in black and white. And the professor's like 10 years younger than me, I get it. And they kind of like moved on. I was like, can we please go back? So Desilu Productions is the reason why we have reruns, because Lucille Ball got pregnant and they needed to rerun like old episodes, and they thought that was a crazy idea, because who would want to watch an episode that had already aired? You know? And, you know, like the first time they used 3 cameras to film something, like, you know, it was just such a, there's such incredible contributions that, have been there for so many years. And it's been all kinds of folks, so for me, like specifically in the music space, someone like La Lupe was just absolutely, because as a Cuban woman as well, was like so pivotal to me, and seeing her being interviewed and out there and so vivacious, and this energy that you could see they didn't know what to do with. They never had anyone like that on camera. And if you do not know La Lupe, please look up Fever and listen to her music. She was a character. and she'd be kicking off her shoes, her jewelry, she'd be getting undressed on, like, do you understand like how insane that was back then? And it was too much, you know? And unfortunately, because there wasn't so much room for us in those spaces, you know, people like her, Nina Simone, they died without very much. They contributed so much to the culture, but they weren't taken care of in their older age. And so I just definitely say, I wanna just, as we're ending this, I wanna say thank you, because it's fans like you that are supporting. It's wonderful to get it for someone like me and who's been in this industry for 30 years, and to feel like I can still, it's awesome when it's some of bigger characters, but sometimes y'all come with these like little things that I did that I don't think anyone remembers anymore, and it just is so meaningful. And I can tell for so many folks who've been doing this for so long and maybe not working as much, but seeing your excitement to see them for the work that they did contribute means so much to them. You're really taking care of an entire artistry that I wonder, with the advent of AI and what's happening, is gonna be as prominent in the future, but I think it will because of people like you. So I look forward to, even as we're talking about theater, I think more and more and more as AI and things continue to grow up, it's going to be even more special to see live human performance and talent. So keep honing that. Don't get discouraged no matter what you're seeing sort of being developed, because I think there's always going to be room for that. I saw something online that really moved me and said, seeing AI art made me believe in a soul, because it's really different, like, to see something that doesn't necessarily have that human inspiration behind it. So, and it's not to say, I know a lot of artists who use it in the right ways, but I know that there's a push to kind of replace people, specifically like seeing voice actors and stuff, and that's some of my favorite things to do. And I just refuse. There's a place for it. James L. Jones gave his voice to be able to be used forever, so that we could always have Darth Vader's voice be Darth Vader's voice. There's a place for it, but we can't let it replace people. And so thank you for not letting that happen, because I know you will.
And I think we had one last question. Oh,
Yeah, so for individuals who are disabled, how did you get involved with Hollywood? What motivates you yourself to continue in helping and advocating for the disabled community?
Wow, you know, I grew up in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and I actually lived, the building nearby me had a whole deaf community in it, so I've actually been starting to learn some sign. But like I've just always been, I don't know why, I've been very curious as to how we are not more inviting and inclusive of people. I just saw Frida Kahlo's house yesterday. I was in Mexico City just yesterday. And to see her art and her home and where she designed and created was so moving. Literally brought me to tears multiple times, but she was bedridden most of her life. She was working out of a wheelchair. And when I think about how many spaces that I traveled to while I was in Mexico City that she couldn't have access to because it wasn't designed for her, she's literally one of the greatest icons of creation and like artistry ever. And the world was still so not made for her. And I just think that's so wrong. And I'm grateful for her visibility, because it continues to shine a light on just how necessary it is to see the humanity of all kinds of people, especially and including our disabled community. So, I don't know. I know a lot of people who are very differently abled and who became differently abled as their life because of illness or accident or whatever. And I recognize that all of us, as blessed as we are in whatever ways that we came into this world, always have the capacity to be and inhabit a different experience at any moment. And we should not look at anyone else who's in that experience as lesser than or other. Because we're all in this shared community together, and I think it's important that we constantly bring attention to that.
thank you so much. You have been full of amazing, incredible answers today, and you've been such a wonderful guest. Everyone, please put your hands together for the amazing Rosario Dawson.
I'm like not leaving. I'm just like, this was so great. What are you guys doing next?
Oh, and I think there's going to be a photograph of some sort.